I'm standing on my bed, arms shaking, staring into a black lens hidden inside my air vent. It's pointed straight at where I sleep every night. My stomach turns violent. I can taste copper in my mouth. I rip the camera out with trembling fingers. The plastic feels warm, used. For one frozen second, I imagine how long I've been watched. How many nights. How many private moments that were never actually private. Downstairs, my stepfather laughs at something on television. The sound makes me nauseous now. Everything makes sense in the worst possible way. My name is Arielle Brooks. I'm 18 years old. I live with my mother and stepfather in a house that I thought was safe. I was wrong. This is the moment I realized my home was never safe. This is the moment everything changed. The camera sits in my palm like a poisonous secret. Small, black, professional quality. This wasn't some cheap device bought on impulse. This was planned. This was deliberate. I can hear my mother calling my name from the kitchen. Dinner is ready. She sounds happy. Normal. Like nothing in the world is wrong. But everything is wrong. Everything has been wrong for longer than I want to think about. The lens stares back at me like a dead eye. I wonder what it saw. I wonder what he saw. Then I realize something that makes my blood run cold. If there's one camera, there might be more. I lock my door and sit on the floor for hours, holding the camera like evidence from a murder scene. The plastic grows warm in my hands. I don't cry yet. I don't scream. I just stare at it and try to understand what this means. What terrifies me most is how normal everything sounds outside my room. Dinner plates clinking, television noise, my mother humming while she washes dishes. The ordinary sounds of a family evening. I realize this house will swallow me if I react wrong. If I run downstairs screaming, who will believe me? My stepfather will say I'm lying. He'll act confused and hurt. My mother will want to believe him because believing me is too frightening. The camera has a memory card inside. I can see the little slot. Part of me wants to destroy it, smash it, throw it away, and pretend this never happened. But another part of me knows that would be a mistake. Evidence doesn't disappear just because you don't want to see it. And right now, this little black box is the only proof I have that I'm not crazy. My stepfather calls my name, says dinner is getting cold. His voice sounds friendly, concerned, like a normal father figure who cares about his family. I answer that I'm coming. My voice sounds normal too. Amazing how lies can sound so much like truth when you need them to. Memories rearrange themselves violently in my mind. I see everything differently now. My stepfather fixing my ceiling vent last month. How he insisted it needed special attention. How he sent me out of the room while he worked. I remember how he always found reasons to enter my room. Checking windows. Adjusting the heater. Bringing up folded laundry that my mother usually handled. I thought he was being helpful. I remember his comments about my clothes. How he'd notice when I wore something new. How he'd say I was growing up so fast. I thought he was being fatherly. The patterns were always there. I was just trained to ignore them. Trained to be polite. Trained to give him the benefit of the doubt because he married my mother and made her happy. My mother met him 3 years ago. I was 15. He seemed nice, normal. He made her laugh after years of being alone. He brought flowers and took us out to dinner. He fixed things around the house that had been broken for months. He never raised his voice, never lost his temper. Never did anything that would make my mother question her choice. He was careful, patient, strategic. Just like the camera placement, just like everything else. The betrayal isn't sudden. It's been unfolding quietly for years. I just didn't know how to see it until now. Now I can't unsee it. I plugged the camera into my laptop with shaking hands. The device connects immediately. It's more advanced than I expected. The files are organized into folders. Each folder has a date. Each date spans back months. My name appears in the file names. My room, my schedule, my life reduced to data points and timestamps. I don't open everything. I can't. But I see enough to know this wasn't accidental. This wasn't curiosity. This was systematic surveillance. This was control. The camera has night vision, motion detection, auto-upload features to cloud storage. This cost money. This took planning. This took time. My hands shake as I scroll through the folder dates. Some go back to when I was still a minor, when I was still a child. The thought makes me dizzy. I close the laptop before I see too much, before I lose my mind completely. I need to stay calm. I need to think clearly. Panic will only hurt me now. Someone knocks on my door. My stepfather's voice asks if I'm okay. Says I missed dinner, says my mother is worried. I tell him I'm studying, I'll eat later. He accepts this explanation easily. Too easily. Like he's practiced accepting my excuses. Like he's been listening for them. Through the door, I hear him pause. Waiting. Listening. Then his footsteps move away down the hall. I wonder if he knows the camera is missing yet. I wonder how long I have before he notices. At breakfast, my mother chats cheerfully about her day. She asks if I slept well. The question hits me like a physical blow. I almost choke on my orange juice. I study her face while she talks, looking for signs that she knows something, that she suspects something, that she's choosing to ignore something. She looks normal, happy, content. She smiles at my stepfather when he enters the kitchen, kisses his cheek, asks if he wants coffee. I realize then that betrayal doesn't always look like cruelty. Sometimes it looks like comfort. Sometimes it looks like a woman who refuses to see danger because seeing it would destroy the life she's built. My stepfather sits across from me at the breakfast table. He looks normal too, tired from work, drinking his coffee, reading news on his phone, a regular man living a regular morning. But I know what's in his pocket now, what's on his devices, what's hidden in places I haven't found yet. He asks how I slept. His eyes meet mine when he asks. The question feels loaded with meaning that only I understand. I tell him I slept fine, perfect lie delivered with a perfect smile. He nods and goes back to his phone, satisfied. Like he knows something I think I'm hiding. My mother asks if I want more toast. Normal question, normal morning, normal family breakfast, except nothing is normal anymore. Nothing will ever be normal again. I act fine for the next 3 days. I laugh at dinner. I say thank you when he compliments my outfit. I help with dishes. I do homework at the kitchen table like nothing has changed. My stepfather watches me closely. I can feel his eyes tracking my movements, searching for cracks in my performance, looking for signs that I know something I shouldn't know. I understand something critical during these 3 days. If he suspects that I found the camera, I lose my chance to survive this cleanly. If he thinks I'm a threat, he'll escalate. He'll take precautions. He'll control the narrative. Right now I have an advantage. I know something he doesn't know I know. That advantage won't last long, but it's all I have. I research while he's at work. I learn about surveillance laws, about privacy violations, about what constitutes evidence versus accusation. The legal landscape is more complex than I expected. I also research him, social media profiles, work history, public records. I'm looking for patterns, other victims, other red flags that might have been missed. What I find is a man who looks completely normal on paper. Good job. No criminal record, community volunteer work, character references that paint him as upstanding and trustworthy. The perfect predator, hidden in plain sight. My mother comes home from work exhausted. She hugs me and asks about my day. Her love feels genuine, her concern feels real, but her blindness feels dangerous. I install a deadbolt lock on my door while they're both out running errands. The hardware store employee showed me how to do it myself. It takes 2 hours and leaves my hands sore. My stepfather notices it immediately when they return. His reaction is swift and telling. "Why do you need a lock?" he asks. His voice stays calm, but I can see tension in his shoulders. "Is everything okay?" My mother sighs and tells me not to cause tension. That word hits me hard. Tension, like my safety is less important than everyone's comfort. The word makes me realize whose feelings have always mattered more in this house, whose peace has been preserved at the cost of my security. I explain that I'm getting older. I want privacy. Normal teenager stuff. My voice sounds reasonable, mature. My stepfather accepts this explanation, but I see him test the lock later when he thinks I'm not looking. He tries the handle, checks the door frame, studies the installation. He's calculating, planning, adapting to this new obstacle. My mother asks me privately if everything is really okay. There's genuine worry in her voice. For a moment, I consider telling her everything. But then I remember her sighing about tension, about how much she loves her husband, about how happy she's been these past 3 years. I tell her everything is fine, I'm just growing up, needing space. She accepts this lie because accepting it is easier than questioning it. I start documenting everything with careful precision. Dates, times, comments, behaviors. I create a timeline that goes back months, years. Patterns emerge that make my stomach turn. I notice how often he accidentally ends up near my room, how he always has excuses to be upstairs when I'm home alone, how he times his movements with my schedule. I realized the camera wasn't the beginning. It was just the boldest move in a campaign that's been going on much longer than I want to accept. I document his comments about my appearance, his questions about my social life, his interest in my whereabouts. Individually, each incident seems harmless. Together, they form a disturbing pattern. I also document my mother's responses, her deflections, her excuses for his behavior, her need to see him as safe because seeing him as dangerous would shatter her world. The documentation grows into something substantial, concrete, undeniable. I keep everything encrypted, backed up in multiple locations, hidden where only I can access it. This isn't just evidence anymore. It's insurance. My stepfather tries to engage me in conversation about school, friends, future plans. His questions feel invasive now, predatory, like he's gathering intelligence. I give him generic answers, surface-level responses that tell him nothing while appearing cooperative. He seems satisfied with this arrangement, like he believes he still has control. He has no idea how much control he's already lost. I quietly begin planning my exit strategy. College applications to schools far from home, scholarship opportunities, work-study programs. Every email I send feels like oxygen returning to my lungs. Freedom becomes something I plan instead of something I hope for. Concrete steps instead of wishful thinking. I research student housing options, financial aid packages, cities where I can disappear and start over, places where he can't follow. The planning gives me focus, purpose, something to do with the rage and fear that threatens to consume me otherwise. I apply for early admission programs, rush deadlines, anything that gets me out faster. Each application submitted feels like a victory against the man who thought he could trap me. I'm careful not to let my desperation show. I research normal timelines for college applications. I space out my activities so they look routine instead of frantic. My stepfather asks about my college plans, shows interest in my choices, offers to help with applications. The offer makes my skin crawl. The idea of him involved in my escape planning feels like contamination, like he could sabotage my freedom before I even achieve it. I tell him I want to handle the applications myself. Independence, maturity, taking responsibility for my future. He accepts this explanation with apparent pride, like he's impressed by my initiative. If only he knew what I was really planning. I test my stepfather's surveillance by making subtle changes to my room, moving items slightly, rearranging books on my shelf, adjusting the position of my desk chair. The next day, he mentions something that proves he noticed. He asks if I redecorated, comments on how nice the room looks. His observation is casual, friendly, innocent sounding. My blood goes cold. I know now that he's still watching somehow. The original camera wasn't his only method of surveillance. That night, I search more carefully. I find a second camera, smaller, better hidden, placed behind a picture frame where the lens has a clear view of my entire room. The rage that hits me nearly breaks my careful composure. The violation feels fresh and horrible all over again. He replaced the surveillance within days of my finding the first camera. But instead of breaking down, clarity settles in. This man believes I am powerless. He thinks he can violate my privacy indefinitely. He assumes I'll never fight back effectively. I decide not to correct his assumptions yet. Instead, I leave the second camera exactly where it is. Let him think his system is still working. Let him believe he's still in control. I'll use his overconfidence against him. For now, I perform my daily routine knowing I'm being watched, but I perform it strategically, giving him nothing useful. Nothing he can use to hurt me. I'm no longer the victim in this scenario. I'm gathering intelligence on my predator. I confront my mother carefully one evening when my stepfather is working late. I don't accuse. I don't demand. I just ask questions. Has she noticed anything strange about his behavior? Does she think it's normal how much attention he pays to my daily routine? Has she ever wondered why he's so interested in my personal life? She deflects every question, makes excuses, explains away behaviors that would alarm any reasonable parent. He cares about you, she says. He wants to be a good stepfather. He's just protective, she continues. Men are different about these things. You're imagining problems that aren't there, she concludes. I realize then that she has chosen peace over truth. She has decided that preserving her marriage is more important than protecting her daughter. She will not be my ally in this fight. The realization breaks something inside me. The betrayal feels almost worse than my stepfather's surveillance. At least his motives are clear. At least I know where I stand with him. My mother's betrayal is wrapped in love, disguised as protection, justified by her need for stability. She thinks she's saving her family by refusing to see the danger. She doesn't understand that her denial is feeding the very thing she's afraid to confront. I stop hoping she'll help me. I stop waiting for her to choose my safety over her comfort. I'm completely on my own now. I refine my documentation strategy. Screenshots with timestamps, email backups, cloud storage that he can't access. I learn the difference between proof and accusation, between evidence and suspicion. This is no longer about emotional processing. This is about building an unshakable case. I document the camera placements, the technical specifications, the storage capabilities, the timeline of installation and discovery. I document his behavioral patterns, his questions, his presence near my room, his interest in my schedule and activities. I document my mother's responses, her refusal to investigate, her excuses for his behavior, her choice to prioritize comfort over safety. Everything gets recorded, dated, verified, cross-referenced. I'm not just a victim anymore. I'm building a legal case. I'm creating evidence that can't be dismissed or explained away. The process gives me power, agency, control over a situation that felt completely helpless just weeks ago. My stepfather continues his routine, his surveillance, his casual violations of my privacy. He has no idea that every move he makes is being documented and analyzed. He thinks he's hunting me. He doesn't realize he's being hunted. The predator has become the prey. He just doesn't know it yet. My stepfather grows more relaxed as weeks pass. He jokes at dinner, he makes casual conversation. He acts like everything is perfectly normal. His comfort level tells me everything I need to know about his psychology. He assumes silence means submission. He believes that my lack of obvious resistance means I'm not resisting at all. He has no understanding of strategic thinking, no appreciation for long-term planning, no respect for the intelligence of someone he sees as powerless. His overconfidence becomes a weapon I can use against him. I let him believe that his surveillance is undetected. I perform normalcy for his cameras. I give him a false sense of security that grows stronger each day. Meanwhile, I continue documenting, planning, building my case and my escape route simultaneously. College acceptance letters start arriving, full scholarships to schools thousands of miles away. Each envelope feels like another step toward freedom. My stepfather asks about the letters, shows interest in my choices, offers opinions about which schools would be best for me. His advice feels contaminated, like he's trying to influence my escape route to better serve his interests. I thank him for his input while privately making entirely different decisions. He'll never control my future. He'll never have access to my adult life. I'm going to disappear from his reach completely. One night, I nearly break. The weight of performing normalcy while planning my escape becomes too much. I want to scream. I want to confront him. I want to tear down the careful facade I've built and just destroy everything. Instead, I write myself a promise on a piece of paper that I hide in my textbook. I will leave clean. I will leave whole. I will not let his sickness poison my soul. The words give me strength, focus, a reminder of who I choose to be in this situation. I'm not seeking revenge. I'm not trying to destroy him emotionally. I'm simply removing myself from his reach and ensuring he can't hurt anyone else. That distinction matters. It keeps me human. It keeps me focused on justice rather than vengeance. The difference between those two things will determine what kind of person I become after this is over. I choose justice. I choose precision. I choose to win without becoming the kind of monster he is. My stepfather notices that I seem more settled, more at peace. He comments on how mature I've become lately. He thinks my calmness means he's successfully broken my spirit. He doesn't understand that my calmness comes from having a plan, from knowing exactly how this is going to end. A college acceptance email arrives that changes everything. Full scholarship, housing included, located across the country from here. Starting in 3 months. I read the email 5 times before allowing myself to cry for the first time since finding the camera. Relief pours out of me in waves. Freedom has a date now, a location, a concrete plan that no one can take away from me. I print the acceptance letter and hide it with my other documentation. Evidence of my escape route. Proof that this nightmare has an expiration date. My stepfather notices my improved mood over the following days. He asks if something good happened, if I have news to share. I tell him I'm just feeling optimistic about the future. Truth disguised as vague positivity. He smiles and says he's proud of how well I'm handling the stress of senior year, how mature I've become, how ready I am for adult responsibilities. The irony of his words would be funny if they weren't so nauseating. He has no idea how adult my responsibilities have already become, how much stress I'm actually handling, how ready I am to leave his world behind forever. In 3 months, I'll be gone. Free. Safe. He'll never see me again. Never know where I am. Never have access to my life. That thought gives me strength to endure the remaining time I have to spend in this house. I begin setting the scene for his downfall, carefully, strategically, leaving breadcrumbs that will lead to exposure without pointing directly to me as the source. A conversation overheard at school about surveillance laws. A file accidentally left visible on my laptop screen when he passes by. A news article about privacy violations casually mentioned at dinner. I plant seeds of paranoia. Let him start wondering if other people are becoming aware of issues like the ones he's guilty of. The goal isn't to make him panic. The goal is to make him careless. To get him thinking about external threats instead of internal ones. While he's worried about hypothetical dangers from outside, he won't notice the real danger building inside his own house. I continue performing normalcy for his surveillance, but I start leaving subtle inconsistencies, tiny details that don't quite add up. Nothing obvious enough to trigger immediate alarm, but enough to plant doubt. Is she acting different? Is she hiding something? Is she smarter than she seems? I want those questions nagging at the back of his mind, creating stress, eroding his confidence. A predator who doubts his control over his victim becomes desperate, and desperate people make mistakes. I'm counting on him to make the mistake that will expose him completely. Tension builds at home over the next few weeks, but it has nothing to do with me directly. My mother and stepfather start having small arguments about money, schedules, household responsibilities. Normal couple disagreements that become amplified by underlying stress neither of them fully understands. They're feeling pressure they can't identify or explain. Secrets strain relationships in ways that people don't consciously recognize. Hidden guilt creates anxiety that expresses itself through displaced conflict. My stepfather becomes irritable, defensive. He snaps at my mother over minor issues. She becomes confused by his mood changes. I watch their dynamic deteriorate while maintaining my careful performance of normalcy. I express concern for their relationship. I ask if there's anything I can do to help. Playing the worried daughter, the peacekeeper, the innocent party who just wants her family to be happy. The role gives me information, access to their private conversations, insight into how the pressure is affecting both of them. My mother starts asking me if I've noticed changes in my stepfather's behavior, if I think he seems stressed or upset about something. I tell her I haven't noticed anything specific, but that senior year is stressful for everyone in the family. Maybe he's worried about my college transition. She accepts this explanation. It gives her a framework for understanding his mood without having to dig deeper into potentially dangerous territory. Meanwhile, I continue documenting everything. The timeline is almost complete. The confrontation happens on a Tuesday evening in May. I don't scream. I don't accuse. I don't get emotional. I simply present facts. My stepfather is sitting in the living room watching television. My mother is in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner. Normal evening routine. I walk into the living room carrying my laptop and a manila folder. I set them down on the coffee table and sit across from him. I need to show you something, I say. My voice is calm, matter of fact. I open the laptop, display the camera files, show him the documentation, present the timeline with dates and evidence. His face goes through several changes: confusion, recognition, panic, calculation. I don't know what this is, he says. His voice stays steady, but his hands shake slightly. I show him the physical cameras, the ones I removed from my room, the technical specifications, the storage capabilities. My mother hears our voices and comes into the living room. She sees the laptop screen, the cameras on the table, the folder full of documentation. What's going on? She asks. Her voice is already defensive, already choosing denial. I explain everything calmly, factually, without emotion or accusation. Just information presented clearly and completely. My stepfather's confidence collapses in real time. His explanations become increasingly desperate. His denials sound hollow. The evidence speaks for itself. There's no way to explain it away. My mother's world crumbles as she realizes that silence has consequences, that denial has costs, that protecting her comfort has endangered her daughter. She looks at the evidence spread across the coffee table, the cameras, the files, the documentation, the timeline that goes back months. She looks at my stepfather, at his face, at his desperate attempts to control a narrative that's already beyond his control. She looks at me, at my calm demeanor, at my preparation, at the fact that I handled this alone while she chose to look the other way. I don't gloat. I don't say I told you so. I don't punish her for her denial. Instead, I grieve what she chose not to be. The mother who should have protected me. The woman who should have seen the danger. The parent who should have put my safety above her own comfort. Her tears feel genuine, her shock appears real, her guilt looks crushing. But it's too late for guilt. Too late for shock. Too late for the protection that should have come months ago. She asks what I want to do next, how I want to handle this, what I need from her now. I tell her I'm leaving for college in 3 months. I've already made arrangements. I don't need anything from either of them, except to be left alone until then. My stepfather tries to speak, to explain, to minimize, to control. I close the laptop and gather my evidence. The police will be interested in this, I say simply. Then I walk upstairs to my room, lock my door, and finally allow myself to breathe. The house turns cold over the following days. Not temperature cold, but emotionally frozen. Conversations stop. Meals become silent. The pretense of normal family life evaporates completely. Power has shifted. The dynamics that governed this household for 3 years have collapsed overnight. My stepfather is no longer feared. He's not even respected. He's simply exposed. His authority was built on hidden knowledge, on secret power, on the assumption that his victims would never fight back effectively. With his secrets revealed, his power dissolves. He becomes pathetic, desperate, dangerous in new ways, but no longer powerful. My mother moves through the house like a ghost. She's lost her marriage, her sense of reality, and her relationship with her daughter all at once. She tries to talk to me several times, wants to explain, wants to apologize, wants to understand how this happened without her knowledge. I listen politely. I don't argue with her version of events. I don't correct her need to believe she was fooled rather than complicit. But I also don't forgive her. Forgiveness requires trust, and trust requires evidence of change. So far, I've seen guilt and shock, but not real understanding. She still doesn't comprehend that her denial enabled his predation, that her comfort was purchased with my safety, that her love was conditional on my silence. Understanding might come later, or it might not. Either way, it's no longer my responsibility to educate her. I pack methodically over the next 2 weeks, not rushing, but not lingering either, taking what belongs to me, leaving what doesn't matter. For the first time in months, no one monitors my movements. No one questions my activities. No one tries to control my choices. My absence from family dinners goes unmentioned. My locked bedroom door is respected. My preparations for departure are ignored. They both understand that their opinions about my leaving are irrelevant, that their permission is not required, that their comfort is no longer my concern. I've become invisible by choice rather than by force. The difference is profound. My mother asks one last time if I'll consider staying local for college, if I want to work through this as a family, if I think counseling might help. I tell her that some bridges can't be rebuilt, some trust can't be restored, some families can't be saved. She cries when I say this. Real tears for the relationship she lost through her own choices. My stepfather doesn't try to stop me, doesn't offer apologies, doesn't attempt any final manipulation. He knows the game is over. His power is gone. His secrets are exposed. His future is no longer in his control. He's waiting for the other shoe to drop. For the legal consequences. For the social reckoning. He's right to wait. They're coming. I walk away on a bright morning in August. My belongings fit into 2 suitcases and a backpack. Everything else stays behind as evidence of a life I'm choosing to leave. My mother hugs me goodbye. The embrace feels hollow, performative, like she's saying goodbye to who she wishes I could still be, rather than accepting who I've become. My stepfather stays in his bedroom while I leave. He doesn't say goodbye, doesn't acknowledge my departure. Pretends that my exit is somehow not connected to his exposure. The cowardice is fitting. Predators rarely face their victims during moments of final reckoning. I take a taxi to the airport, board a plane to my new city, watch my old life disappear beneath the clouds. For the first time in months, no one knows where I am. No one is monitoring my movements. No one has access to my private spaces. The freedom feels overwhelming at first. Too big. Too complete. I've been living with surveillance for so long that privacy feels foreign. But gradually, the relief settles in. The safety becomes real. The future opens up in front of me like a blank page waiting to be written. I text my mother once I land. Tell her I arrived safely. That I'm starting my new life. She texts back that she loves me. That she hopes I'll call sometimes. That she's sorry for everything that happened. I don't respond. Love without protection is just sentiment. Hope without change is just wishful thinking. Sorry without understanding is just noise. The legal and social consequences find my stepfather within weeks of my departure. Not because I pursued them directly, but because truth has a way of spreading once it's released. A concerned neighbor calls police after seeing my evidence. An investigation opens. Other victims come forward. A pattern emerges that extends beyond just me. I'm contacted by detectives who want my testimony. I cooperate fully, provide everything I documented, answer every question they ask. The legal process is slow, methodical, thorough. Justice doesn't move quickly, but it moves inevitably when the evidence is clear. I don't follow the case obsessively. I don't need to see him destroyed to feel safe. His power over me ended the moment I left his reach. But I'm satisfied to know that his ability to hurt others is being systematically dismantled, that his secrets can no longer protect him, that his victims now have voices. My mother calls occasionally, updates me on the legal proceedings, asks how I'm adjusting to college life, tries to rebuild a relationship across the wreckage of what came before. I'm polite, distant, open to communication but not to reconciliation. Some relationships can survive betrayal, others can't. Time will determine which category ours falls into. For now, I focus on building a life that belongs entirely to me, creating safety that no one can violate, developing trust in my own judgment. The work of healing doesn't happen quickly, but it happens. I wake up every morning in a place that belongs to me, a dormitory room with locks I control, windows no one watches, privacy that's actually private. The healing doesn't arrive loudly. It comes in quiet moments. In mornings when I don't check for cameras. In conversations where I don't calculate how my words might be used against me. In sleep that's deep and dreamless. I make friends slowly, carefully, learning to trust again without becoming paranoid. Learning to be normal without forgetting to stay safe. My college experience isn't defined by what I escaped from. It's defined by what I'm building toward. A career that interests me. Relationships that nurture me. A future that excites me. I study psychology, criminal justice, subjects that help me understand what happened and how to prevent it from happening to others. Knowledge becomes power in a completely different way than it was before. Not power to survive, but power to thrive. My grades are excellent. My professors notice my dedication. My classmates see me as focused and mature without knowing why. I carry my history privately. It informs my choices without defining my identity. I am no longer the girl in the room with the camera. I am the woman who walked out intact. That distinction makes all the difference. 2 years later, I receive news that my stepfather has been sentenced to prison. Multiple counts, multiple victims, justice served through proper channels and legal processes. My mother sends me the news in a careful email. She doesn't ask me to celebrate, doesn't expect me to feel satisfied, just informs me that this chapter is officially closed. I feel relief rather than triumph. Closure. rather than vindication. The process of justice was never about my emotional satisfaction. It was about protecting future victims. That protection has been achieved. His access to potential victims has been permanently severed. The community is safer because truth was finally acknowledged. I'm in my junior year of college now, planning graduate studies, building relationships, creating a life that's entirely my own. I still don't speak to my stepfather. I've had minimal contact with my mother. Some wounds heal, but some bridges remain broken. That's okay. Healing doesn't require forgiveness. Safety doesn't require reconciliation. Moving forward doesn't require looking back. I learned to trust my instincts, to document carefully, to plan strategically, to leave cleanly. Most importantly, I learned that survival isn't enough. The goal isn't just to escape. The goal is to thrive. He watched me for power. He thought surveillance gave him control. But I left him with nothing. No access, no information, no power. I set the scene he'd never recover from simply by refusing to be his victim. And that refusal changed everything.